The Velari didn't stay silent for long. After days of watching humanity react to their arrival, they issued an ultimatum. It came as another broadcast, this time clearer and more direct than before. "You have 6 months," Speaker 1 announced. 6 months to prove you can change. Stop exploiting your world and each other. Show us that you are capable of living in harmony, or face annihilation. The message sent shockwaves through every corner of the globe. 6 months wasn't much time to undo centuries of damage. For some, it felt impossible. How could humanity fix problems that had taken generations to create? Others saw it as a challenge, a chance to rise above their flaws and prove they were worth saving. At the United Nations, debates grew louder and more heated. Delegates argued over what needed to be done first. Some pushed for environmental reforms, urging countries to stop polluting and start healing the planet. Others focused on social issues, calling for an end to wars, inequality, and injustice. But no matter how many plans were proposed, disagreements slowed progress. Sarah Dawson tried her best to keep the discussions focused. She stood up during one meeting, her voice steady and calm. "We don't have time to waste arguing," she said. "Every day we delay puts us closer to failure. We need to act now, and we need to work together." Her words earned nods from some delegates, but others dismissed her ideas. John Harper, still convinced that war was inevitable, mocked her efforts. "Peace talks won't save us if they decide to attack," he snapped. "We need weapons, not speeches." Despite the resistance, Sarah refused to give up. She spent hours meeting with leaders, activists, and scientists, gathering support for peaceful solutions. Her determination inspired others, including Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell, who shared her belief that humanity had to try. Meanwhile, ordinary people began taking matters into their own hands. In small towns and big cities alike, communities came together to make changes. Farmers planted trees instead of cutting them down. Families started recycling and reducing waste. Teachers taught children about kindness and respect, hoping to build a better future generation by generation. But not everyone embraced the call for change. Powerful elites fought back, fearing they would lose control if society shifted too much. Corporations resisted new laws, claiming they would hurt profits. Some even went so far as to spread false information, trying to convince people the Velari's ultimatum was a hoax. John Harper took advantage of the chaos. He secretly funded groups working against reform, believing that humanity's survival depended on strength, not compromise. His actions caught the attention of the Velari, who responded with another warning. "Interference will not be tolerated," Speaker 1 declared. The message was clear. Anyone attempting to sabotage humanity's efforts would face consequences. As tensions rose, Emily and Ryan made a startling discovery. Hidden within the data from the Velari's broadcasts was evidence suggesting they had visited Earth before, long ago. The clues pointed to moments in history when sudden leaps in technology or culture had occurred. Could the Velari have influenced humanity in the past? And if so, why? Emily shared her findings with Sarah, who listened intently. "This changes everything," Sarah said. "If they've helped us before, maybe they're giving us another chance now." Ryan nodded, but helping doesn't mean trusting. If we don't show real progress, they'll walk away. And this time, they won't come back. With 3 months left until the deadline, humanity stood at a crossroads. Progress was visible in some places, but resistance remained strong in others. The gap between those willing to change and those clinging to old ways grew wider every day. Riots broke out in cities where reforms faced pushback, while hopeful communities celebrated small victories. Sarah knew the fight was far from over. Trust had been broken, and unity felt fragile. Still, she held on to hope. If enough people worked together, maybe, just maybe, they could meet the Velari's demands and secure a second chance for Earth. For now, the clock kept ticking, reminding everyone that time was running out. In the year 2147, humanity had grown used to its place as a young species exploring the stars. Space travel was no longer a dream but a reality, and Earth's people were eager to see what lay beyond their planet. But one day, everything changed. A strange signal reached Earth, coming from deep space. It wasn't just any message. It was loud, clear, and sent in every language spoken by humans. The words shocked everyone. "Stop assaulting, or we stop pretending to be civilized." The message spread quickly, causing panic and confusion. No one knew who or what had sent it. Was it a warning, a threat, or something else entirely? Governments around the world scrambled to figure out what was happening. Scientists worked day and night to study the signal, trying to understand its meaning and origin. At the Global Space Research Institute, Dr. Emily Carter sat at her desk, staring at the data on her screen. She was a linguist, someone who studied languages, and she had been chosen to help decode the mysterious message. Her colleague, Dr. Ryan Mitchell, stood nearby, scratching his head. Both of them were experts in their fields, but this was unlike anything they had ever seen. "This doesn't make sense," Emily said, leaning back in her chair. "Why would aliens send us a message like this? And why now?" Ryan shrugged. "Maybe they've been watching us for a long time. Maybe they're tired of waiting for us to change." The two scientists spent hours analyzing the signal, looking for hidden meanings or clues. They noticed that the message repeated itself over and over, always in the same tone, calm but firm. It didn't sound angry, but it also didn't leave room for doubt. Whoever had sent it meant business. While Emily and Ryan worked, the rest of the world buzzed with activity. News channels broadcast the message nonstop, showing interviews with experts and ordinary people alike. Some thought it was a prank, a trick played by someone with advanced technology. Others believed it was real and argued about what it meant. What did assaulting refer to? Was it about war? Pollution? How humans treated each other? Sarah Dawson watched the news from her apartment in Toronto. She was a diplomat, someone who helped countries talk to each other and solve problems. Sarah felt uneasy. Something about the message felt personal, as if it was directed not just at governments but at every single person on Earth. The next morning, Sarah attended an emergency meeting at the United Nations. Delegates from all over the world gathered to discuss the situation. The room was filled with tension. Everyone had an opinion, and no one agreed. Some argued that the message was about Earth's environment. For years, humans had polluted the air, destroyed forests, and killed countless animals. Maybe the aliens were upset about that. Others thought the message referred to human behavior. Wars, violence, and greed had plagued Earth for centuries. Could the aliens be telling humanity to stop fighting and start working together? John Harper, a military strategist, stood up and spoke loudly. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We don't even know if this message is real. It could be a trick. We need to prepare for war, not waste time debating nonsense." Sarah frowned. She didn't agree with John. War wasn't the answer. If the message was real, and she believed it was, then humanity needed to listen. But how? And what exactly were they supposed to do? As the meeting continued, Emily and Ryan made a discovery. Hidden within the signal was a pattern, a sequence of numbers that matched coordinates in space. It seemed like the aliens wanted humanity to look toward a specific part of the galaxy. Could this be a clue to finding them? The world held its breath, waiting for answers. No one knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain. Life on Earth would never be the same again. The United Nations building was packed with delegates from every corner of the globe. The air felt heavy, thick with tension and uncertainty. Everyone had an opinion about the alien message, but no one could agree on what it meant or how to respond. Some countries wanted to send a peaceful reply, hoping to open a dialogue with the mysterious beings. Others thought preparing for war was the only safe choice. The debate grew louder and more heated as hours passed. Sarah Dawson sat quietly at the back of the room, listening carefully. She didn't like the direction things were heading. John Harper, a military strategist known for his aggressive views, dominated the conversation. He argued that humanity couldn't afford to appear weak. "If we show fear," he said, slamming his fist on the table, "they'll see us as easy targets." Sarah shook her head. She didn't believe violence was the answer. If the aliens had wanted to attack, they could have done so already. Instead, they sent a message, a warning. To Sarah, that meant there was still time to fix whatever had upset them. But how? And what exactly had humanity done wrong? Meanwhile, at the Global Space Research Institute, Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell continued their work. They had discovered something new in the signal, tiny fluctuations in the transmission that seemed deliberate. It wasn't random noise. It was a pattern. Emily's eyes lit up as she realized what it might mean. "They're trying to communicate more than just words," she told Ryan. "This is like a map." Ryan leaned closer, studying the data. "You're right. These numbers, they look like coordinates. Maybe they want us to look somewhere specific." Excited by their discovery, Emily and Ryan shared their findings with the United Nations team. The news sparked both hope and fear. Could this be a way to find the aliens and talk to them directly? Or was it a trap, leading humanity into danger? Back at the meeting, Sarah saw her chance to speak. She stood up, her voice calm but firm. "We need to focus on understanding their message instead of jumping to conclusions," she said. "If we can figure out what they want, we might avoid conflict altogether." Her words earned nods from some delegates, but others dismissed her ideas. One man, representing a powerful nation, laughed bitterly. "Understanding won't save us if they decide to attack. We need weapons, not words." John Harper agreed, pushing harder for military action. He believed Earth should build stronger defenses and prepare for the worst. His arguments swayed many people in the room, especially those who feared losing control. But Sarah refused to give up. She knew peace was possible, if only humanity would try. Outside the UN building, crowds gathered, holding signs and chanting slogans. Some demanded answers from their leaders, while others called for unity and change. Social media buzzed with theories and opinions, spreading faster than anyone could keep up. Conspiracy theorists claimed the message was fake, created by governments to manipulate the public. Environmentalists saw it as proof that Earth's destruction had finally caught up with humanity. Religious groups interpreted it as a sign of divine judgment. Amid all the chaos, ordinary people began to reflect on their lives. Families talked about the message around dinner tables. Teachers discussed it in classrooms. Even children wondered what it meant to stop assaulting and why the aliens cared so much. At home that evening, Sarah stared out her window, thinking about the day's events. She felt overwhelmed but determined. Humanity had faced challenges before: wars, disasters, pandemics, and survived. This was different, though. This wasn't just about survival. It was about proving that humans could do better. As she turned off the light and climbed into bed, Sarah made a silent promise to herself. No matter what happened next, she would fight for peace. Because if humanity couldn't come together now and it mattered most, then maybe they didn't deserve a second chance after all. Weeks passed, and the world waited anxiously for another sign from the aliens. Governments debated endlessly, but no clear plan emerged. Some countries began building weapons, while others focused on finding ways to communicate peacefully. Ordinary people went about their lives, though fear lingered in the air like a storm waiting to break. Then, one night, it happened. The sky lit up with an eerie glow as massive ships descended into Earth's orbit. They didn't attack or destroy anything. They simply hovered there, silent and imposing. Billions of people watched in awe as holographic projections appeared all over the planet. The images were sharp and vivid, showing scenes that made humanity's heart sink. The first projection showed forests burning, rivers choked with plastic, and animals lying lifeless on barren land. The second revealed wars, bombs exploding, cities crumbling, and families crying over lost loved ones. The third was even harder to watch. Humans hurting each other, shouting, fighting, and turning away from those in need. Each image cut deeper than the last, leaving no doubt about what the aliens thought of Earth. A voice echoed through the projections, calm but firm. "You have exploited your world and each other," it said. "This is your final warning." The aliens introduced themselves as the Velari, a highly advanced civilization tasked with keeping balance in the galaxy. Their leader, called Speaker One, spoke directly to humanity. "We do not wish to harm you," Speaker One explained, "but we cannot allow your actions to continue unchecked. You must change or face consequences." The message sent shockwaves around the globe. People gathered in streets and parks, staring at the projections in stunned silence. Some cried, overwhelmed by guilt and shame. Others argued, insisting the Velari had no right to judge them. A few tried to deny the truth, claiming the images were exaggerated or fake. But deep down, everyone knew the Velari were right. At the Global Space Research Institute, Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell worked tirelessly to analyze the new data. They studied the ships, the projections, and the voice itself, searching for clues about the Velari's intentions. What they found was both fascinating and unsettling. The technology used by the Velari was far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. It wasn't just advanced. It was almost magical. Emily leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "They're not just watching us," she said quietly. "They understand us. Maybe even better than we understand ourselves." Ryan nodded. "And they're not here to negotiate. This is a demand, plain and simple." Sarah Dawson watched the projections from her apartment, her mind racing. She felt a mix of emotions: fear, anger, and determination. The Velari weren't asking for small changes. They wanted humanity to transform completely. Could it be done? More importantly, would enough people be willing to try? John Harper, meanwhile, saw the arrival of the Velari as proof of his worst fears. He gathered his team, urging them to speed up weapon production. "If they think they can scare us into submission, they're wrong," he growled. "We'll show them we're not weak." But not everyone agreed with Harper. Across the world, protests erupted, calling for peace and reform. In cities like New York, London, and Tokyo, crowds chanted slogans like "Change starts now" and "Save our world." Even some politicians began pushing for bold action, proposing laws to reduce pollution, end wars, and improve equality. As days passed, the Velari remained silent, their ships still hovering above Earth. Humanity held its breath, unsure of what would come next. Would the aliens give them time to change? Or had they already decided Earth's fate? In quiet moments, Sarah allowed herself to hope. Maybe this was a chance, a rare opportunity for humanity to fix its mistakes and build a better future. But she also knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Change never was. Still, she clung to the belief that if enough people worked together, anything was possible. For now, the world waited, suspended between fear and hope, destruction and renewal. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: humanity's story was about to take a turn no one could have predicted. As weeks turned into months, humanity began to see glimpses of hope. In some parts of the world, communities came together in ways no one had expected. People worked side by side, planting trees, cleaning polluted rivers, and finding new ways to live without harming the planet. Marcus Lane, a young activist from Chicago, became a symbol of this movement. He traveled across the country, speaking to crowds about the importance of change. "We can't wait for someone else to fix things," he often said. "It's up to us." Marcus's efforts inspired thousands. In cities like Detroit and Portland, people started sharing resources, creating gardens on rooftops, and teaching each other how to live sustainably. Even corporations, feeling the pressure from public opinion, began making changes. Some switched to cleaner energy sources, while others promised to stop practices that hurt the environment. But not all progress was celebrated equally. The Velari watched closely, rewarding regions that showed real improvement with subtle blessings. Crops grew healthier in areas where farmers adopted eco-friendly methods. Air became cleaner in cities that reduced pollution. Wildlife returned to places once thought lost forever. These small miracles gave people hope, but also highlighted the growing divide between those who embraced change and those who resisted it. In areas where reforms struggled, life became harder. Droughts hit farmland that relied on harmful chemicals. Factories that refused to adapt faced mysterious breakdowns. It was as if the Velari were nudging humanity along, pushing them toward the right path, or punishing them for failing to try. Sarah Dawson noticed something strange during her travels. She kept receiving anonymous tips, messages guiding her toward policies or actions that seemed to align perfectly with the Velari's demands. At first, she dismissed them as coincidences, but the advice proved helpful time and again. One tip led her to support a grassroots initiative that cleaned up a major river. Another helped her expose corruption within a powerful corporation. Curious, Sarah shared her experience with Ryan Mitchell. "Do you think the Velari are influencing us?" she asked. Ryan hesitated. "Maybe. Or maybe someone else is pulling strings. Either way, we should be careful." While Sarah trusted the tips, Ryan remained cautious. He warned her not to rely too heavily on information she couldn't verify. Still, the suggestions kept coming, always leading to positive outcomes. Meanwhile, John Harper grew more desperate. His secret campaigns against reform were failing, and public opinion had turned against him. Frustrated, he decided to take drastic action. Using his connections, he planted false evidence implicating Sarah in sabotage attempts against pro-reform initiatives. The accusations spread quickly, painting Sarah as a traitor working to undermine humanity's survival. When authorities arrested Sarah, shockwaves rippled through the global community. Many doubted the charges, pointing out her tireless work for peace, but others saw an opportunity to discredit her and the reforms she represented. For days, Sarah sat in a cold cell, her reputation under attack. Determined to uncover the truth, Ryan teamed up with Lisa Bennett, an investigative journalist known for her sharp instincts. Together, they dug into the accusations, following trails of forged documents and fake witnesses. What they uncovered was chilling: a shadowy network of powerful individuals working to derail humanity's efforts. At its center stood John Harper. With the evidence in hand, Ryan and Lisa went public. Their story exposed Harper's schemes, turning the tide of public opinion back in Sarah's favor. Authorities dropped the charges, and Harper found himself facing scrutiny from every corner of the globe. Though vindicated, Sarah realized the fight wasn't over. Trust had been shattered, and unity remained fragile. With just 2 months left until the deadline, humanity still had much to prove, and little room for error. With 2 months left until the Velari's deadline, tensions reached a breaking point. The world was divided. Some regions thrived under reforms, while others resisted fiercely. Sarah Dawson knew time was running out. Humanity needed a bold move, something that would show the Velari they were serious about change. She proposed an idea so daring it shocked even her closest allies. Dismantle Earth's largest weapons stockpile live on global television. The plan was risky, but it carried a powerful message. By destroying their tools of war, humanity could demonstrate its commitment to peace. Sarah argued passionately at the United Nations, urging leaders to support the event. "This isn't just about weapons," she said. "It's about showing the Velari, and ourselves, that we're ready to let go of fear and hatred." Her proposal gained traction, inspiring millions around the globe. Activists rallied behind her, sharing videos and messages of hope. Marcus Lane, who had become a symbol of grassroots action, joined Sarah in calling for unity. "We've spent too long building things that hurt each other," he said during a speech. "Now it's time to build something better." But not everyone agreed. John Harper, humiliated by his recent exposure, saw the event as a threat to his vision of strength through power. He worked behind the scenes, rallying loyalists to sabotage the ceremony. His followers infiltrated security teams and spread rumors of danger, hoping to scare people away. On the day of the event, crowds gathered outside the facility where the weapons were stored. Cameras from every corner of the world broadcast the scene. Soldiers stood guard, ensuring safety, while speakers addressed the audience about the importance of peace. Sarah took the stage, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Today we prove that humanity can choose life over destruction," she declared. As workers began dismantling the first missile, chaos erupted. Gunfire rang out as Harper's forces launched a surprise attack, attempting to seize control of the facility. Civilians screamed, scattering in all directions. Soldiers fought back, trying to protect the crowd and keep the event on track. Amid the confusion, Marcus Lane stepped forward, shielding Sarah from danger. He shouted for calm, urging everyone to stay focused on the mission. His bravery inspired others to stand their ground. Together, civilians and soldiers pushed back against Harper's attackers, refusing to let fear win. The firefight lasted for what felt like hours, but eventually, the attackers were driven back. Though shaken, the ceremony continued. Workers finished dismantling the missiles, fulfilling Sarah's promise. As the final weapon was destroyed, cheers erupted from the crowd, echoing across the planet. But the victory came at a cost. Marcus Lane lay injured on the ground, having taken a bullet meant for Sarah. Medics rushed to his side, but it was clear his injuries were severe. Before he passed away, Marcus whispered to Sarah, "Don't stop fighting. We're worth saving." His sacrifice weighed heavily on Sarah, but it also strengthened her resolve. The event sent a powerful message to the Valari and to humanity itself. People around the world watched, moved by the courage and determination shown that day. For the first time in months, there was a sense of hope. Yet challenges remained. Trust between nations was fragile, and resistance to reform still lingered. With only weeks left until Judgment Day, humanity faced one final test, proving that their commitment to change was real, not just words or gestures. The clock kept ticking, reminding everyone that the hardest part was yet to come. With just 1 month left until the Valari's deadline, humanity entered a trial period. The aliens began monitoring Earth closely, watching to see if the changes people had made were genuine or just temporary efforts to avoid punishment. They rewarded regions that showed real progress with subtle blessings, healthier crops, cleaner air, and restored ecosystems. But areas that resisted reform faced harsh consequences. Droughts dried up farmland, rivers turned murky, and resources dwindled. The divide between those embracing change and those resisting grew wider. In cities like Chicago and Toronto, where communities had worked together to heal their environments, life felt hopeful. People shared food grown in community gardens, children played in parks filled with returning wildlife, and skies cleared of smog. These places became symbols of what humanity could achieve when it worked together. But in other parts of the world, resistance remained strong. Powerful elites and corrupt leaders fought back against reforms, fearing they would lose control. Factories that refused to adopt cleaner practices faced mysterious breakdowns, leaving workers jobless and angry. Riots broke out in cities where people struggled under new restrictions, blaming the changes for their hardships. Governments cracked down brutally, sparking outrage and further unrest. Sarah Dawson traveled tirelessly during this time, visiting both thriving and struggling regions. She saw firsthand how fragile progress was. In some towns, she found inspiration. People coming together despite challenges, finding creative ways to adapt. But in others, she saw despair. Families torn apart by conflict, businesses failing, and anger boiling over into violence. Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell continued studying the Valari, trying to understand their methods and motives. They noticed something troubling. The aliens seemed particularly focused on North America. While other continents showed signs of improvement, many parts of North America lagged behind. Pollution levels remained high, inequality persisted, and resistance to change was widespread. "They're testing us," Emily said one evening as she reviewed data with Ryan. "Not just globally, but regionally. If we don't get North America on track, I think it'll count against us. Ryan nodded. It's like you're saying, if your strongest nations can't lead, how can you expect weaker ones to follow? Sarah heard about their findings and realized the stakes were even higher than she'd thought. She pushed harder for unity, urging leaders across North America to set aside differences and work together. Her pleas fell on deaf ears in some cases, but slowly, small victories began to add up. A mayor agreed to shut down a polluting factory. A governor passed a law protecting endangered species. Each step forward mattered, no matter how small. Meanwhile, John Harper faded from public view after his failed attack on the weapons dismantling ceremony. But his influence lingered. Some groups still followed his ideas, spreading fear and distrust. They claimed the Valeri's rewards were unnatural and dangerous, warning people not to trust them. Their words sowed doubt, making it harder for reforms to take root. As the days ticked away, Sarah found herself reflecting on Marcus Lane's sacrifice. His bravery had inspired so many, but she wondered if it would be enough. Humanity had shown flashes of hope, but was it too little, too late? The Valeri's patience seemed endless, yet their warnings carried an unspoken threat. Failure wouldn't be forgiven. On the final night before Judgment Day, Sarah stood outside her home, staring at the stars. She thought about all the lives touched by this crisis, the farmers planting trees, the children learning kindness, the activists risking everything for a better future. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was trying. That had to count for something. As Earth prepared to face its verdict, millions around the globe held vigils, praying for mercy. Others braced for the worst, convinced the Valeri would destroy them. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: humanity would never forget this moment. A chance to rise above its flaws or fall because of them. The final day arrived, and the world held its breath. Billions of people gathered around screens, televisions, phones, computers, waiting for the Valeri to deliver their verdict. Streets were eerily quiet, as even those who doubted the aliens' existence felt the weight of the moment. Governments suspended activities, businesses closed, and schools canceled classes. For once, humanity was united in anticipation, though fear and hope battled within every heart. At precisely noon, the massive alien ships hovering above Earth lit up. A holographic projection appeared worldwide, showing Speaker One, the calm but imposing leader of the Valeri. Their voice echoed across the planet, steady and clear. "We have observed your efforts," Speaker One began. "Some of you have shown courage and determination. You have worked to heal your world and each other." Sarah Dawson sat in her living room, gripping the arms of her chair tightly. Her eyes stayed glued to the screen as Speaker One continued. "Your progress is not perfect, but it is a start. We acknowledge your sacrifices and your willingness to change." A collective sigh of relief swept through the globe. Cheers erupted in cities where reforms had taken hold, while tears streamed down faces in places still struggling. But Speaker One wasn't finished. However, they added, their tone firm: "Your work is far from complete. Inequality remains, greed persists, and the scars you've inflicted on your world will take generations to heal." The Valeri's next words shocked everyone. Instead of punishing humanity, they offered help. They shared advanced technologies designed to repair Earth's damaged ecosystems, machines capable of purifying polluted air, restoring barren lands, and reviving dying oceans. "Use these tools wisely," Speaker One instructed. "They are a gift, but also a test. If you misuse them, the consequences will be severe." To ensure humanity stayed on track, the Valeri promised ongoing guidance. They would remain watchful, intervening only if necessary. "You have earned a second chance," Speaker One concluded. "Do not waste it." As the transmission ended, the alien ships didn't leave immediately. They lingered in orbit, a silent reminder of the Valeri's presence. The world reacted with a mix of joy, disbelief, and cautious optimism. People hugged strangers in the streets, celebrated in parks, and called loved ones to share the news. Social media exploded with messages of gratitude and promises to do better. But not everyone was satisfied. John Harper, now a shadow of his former self, raged privately at the outcome. He believed accepting the Valeries' help meant surrendering Earth's independence. "They'll control us forever," he muttered to anyone who would listen. Few did. Most saw the offer as a lifeline, not a threat. Sarah felt overwhelmed by emotions: relief, pride, and responsibility. She knew the hard part wasn't over. The Valeries' assistance came with conditions, and humanity would need to prove itself daily. Still, she couldn't help feeling hopeful. "This is our chance," she told Ryan Mitchell during a phone call. "If we keep working together, maybe we can build something truly amazing." Emily Carter agreed, though she remained cautious. "It's like they're giving us training wheels," she said. "But eventually, we'll have to ride on our own." In the weeks that followed, life slowly returned to normal, but nothing felt quite the same. Governments restructured, focusing on sustainability and equality. Corporations adopted ethical practices, driven by both necessity and public pressure. Families embraced simpler lifestyles, cherishing connections with each other and the planet. Children learned about the crisis in school, growing up aware of humanity's mistakes and its potential. Activists like Marcus Lane were remembered as heroes, their stories inspiring future generations. Even John Harper's warnings faded into the background as people chose cooperation over conflict. As stars twinkled above a healing Earth, one question lingered in everyone's minds: had humanity truly changed enough to earn the trust of the cosmos? Only time would tell. But for now, there was peace and hope. Life on Earth began to change in ways no one had imagined. The Valeries' advanced technologies brought rapid improvements, but they also forced humanity to rethink how it lived. Machines that purified polluted air were installed in major cities, turning once gray skies blue again. Devices capable of reviving barren lands transformed deserts into fertile fields. Oceans, long choked with plastic and waste, slowly regained their health as alien tools broke down toxins and restored marine life. At first, people marveled at the changes. Families visited parks where trees had sprouted from dry soil, and children swam in rivers that had been lifeless just months before. Farmers celebrated bountiful harvests, thanks to crops grown in soil enriched by alien technology. It seemed like a miracle, proof that humanity could recover from its mistakes, if given the right tools. But the Valeries' help came with strict rules. They monitored every step, ensuring their gifts weren't misused. If someone tried to exploit the technology for profit or power, it would shut down automatically. This frustrated some business owners and politicians who had grown used to bending systems for personal gain. "They're controlling us," grumbled John Harper, still bitter about humanity's reliance on alien intervention. His words found little support now, though. Most people saw the rules as fair, even necessary, after centuries of unchecked greed. Sarah Dawson threw herself into helping communities adjust to the new reality. She traveled across continents, working with local leaders to implement reforms inspired by the Valeries' example. In India, she helped villagers use clean energy generators to power schools and hospitals. In Brazil, she joined efforts to replant rainforests destroyed by logging. Everywhere she went, Sarah emphasized the importance of unity and responsibility. "This isn't just about fixing the planet," she often said. "It's about fixing ourselves." Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell continued studying the Valerii, hoping to learn more about their culture and motives. They discovered that the aliens' influence stretched back further than anyone realized. Ancient myths about gods teaching humans agriculture, medicine, or astronomy might not have been fiction. They could have been memories of past visits by the Valerii. "Maybe they've been guiding us all along," Emily mused during a late-night discussion. And this time, they decided we needed a wake-up call. Despite the progress, challenges remained. Some regions resisted the changes, clinging to old habits. Wealthy elites tried to hoard resources, only to find themselves blocked by the Valeries' fail-safes. Riots occasionally broke out in areas hit hardest by economic shifts, as industries reliant on exploitation collapsed. Governments struggled to balance fairness with stability, knowing any misstep could invite alien intervention. Still, hope outweighed fear. Schools introduced lessons about sustainability and kindness, shaping young minds to value cooperation over competition. Artists created works celebrating renewal, paintings of lush forests, songs about cleaner skies, and sculptures made from recycled materials. Even media shifted focus, highlighting stories of resilience and innovation instead of conflict and division. As months passed, humanity began to feel a sense of pride. People looked at the healing planet and saw what they could achieve when they worked together. Sarah often thought about Marcus Lane, whose sacrifice had inspired so many. She kept a photo of him taped to her desk, reminding herself why she fought for peace and reform. One evening, as Sarah stood on a hill overlooking her hometown, she noticed something unusual. The stars seemed brighter than before, almost as if they were watching. She smiled softly, realizing the Velari were likely still observing Earth. Their presence wasn't oppressive. It was a reminder of how far humanity had come and how much farther it needed to go. For now, Earth was safe, but Sarah knew the journey wasn't over. The Velari had given humanity a second chance, but trust had to be earned daily. Every act of kindness, every effort to protect the planet, mattered. Humanity had proven it could change, but staying changed would require constant vigilance. As she gazed at the stars, Sarah whispered a silent thank you. To the Velari, to Marcus, and to everyone who had believed in a better future. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain. Humanity was learning to stand on its own 2 feet, and maybe, just maybe, it was ready to walk the path toward true greatness. Years passed, and Earth began to feel like a different world. The scars of the past hadn't disappeared completely, but they were healing. Forests once stripped bare now stood tall and green. Rivers that had been choked with waste flowed clear again, teeming with fish. Skies that were once gray with smog turned bright blue, thanks to the Velari's technology and humanity's determination to use it wisely. People adapted to simpler, kinder ways of living. Cities became greener, with rooftop gardens and parks replacing concrete jungles. Factories ran on clean energy, producing goods designed to last instead of being thrown away. Families shared resources, focusing on what mattered most: connection, compassion, and community. Children grew up learning about balance, not just between humans and nature, but also among themselves. Schools taught lessons in empathy and teamwork, ensuring future generations would carry forward the values of unity. The Velari stayed true to their promise, remaining watchful but subtle. Their ships no longer hovered visibly in the sky, but everyone knew they were still there, ready to step in if humanity faltered. This awareness kept people accountable. Leaders who once prioritized power and profit now focused on fairness and sustainability. Even debates at the United Nations felt different, less about competition and more about collaboration. Sarah Dawson continued her work, though she no longer traveled as much. Now older, she spent her days mentoring young activists who carried the torch of change. She often thought about Marcus Lane, whose bravery had inspired so many. His story was told in classrooms around the world, a reminder of the sacrifices made for a better future. Sarah kept his photo close, finding comfort in knowing his legacy lived on. Emily Carter and Ryan Mitchell never stopped studying the Velari. They uncovered more evidence of the aliens' past visits to Earth, piecing together a history that stretched back thousands of years. It seemed the Velari had always been watching, nudging humanity toward moments of progress. "They're like gardeners," Emily said one day, looking over her notes. "Pruning here, watering there, giving us little pushes when we needed them most." John Harper faded into obscurity, his warnings ignored by a world eager to embrace the new way of life. Though some still whispered doubts about relying on alien help, the majority saw the Velari's gifts as tools for growth, not chains of control. Humanity had proven it could change, and it chose to keep moving forward. As decades passed, Earth flourished, wildlife returned in abundance, and ecosystems stabilized. People celebrated festivals honoring the planet, planting trees and cleaning beaches as acts of gratitude. Art reflected this renewed spirit, with paintings of starry skies and songs praising the beauty of a healed world. Humanity had learned to cherish what it almost lost. But questions lingered. Had they truly earned the Valeri's trust? Would the aliens ever see humanity as equals? No one knew for sure. What was certain, though, was that Earth had changed. Not just its environment, but its people. Kindness replaced greed, cooperation replaced conflict, and hope replaced fear. One evening, Sarah stood on the same hill where she had once gazed at the stars. Now surrounded by grandchildren, she pointed to the night sky. "Do you think they're still watching?" one of them asked. "I'm sure of it," Sarah replied with a smile. "And I hope they're proud of what we've done." The stars twinkled silently, as if in agreement. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity faced them together, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever before. The road had been long and difficult, but every step had been worth it. For the first time in history, Earth wasn't just surviving, it was thriving.